Here's another game I recently played, a 5-minute game. I was really happy with the results. Obviously, I'm black. All right, so pawn to king 4. Now, usually I respond with different defenses, but I thought, what the heck, I'll just play pawn to king 4 myself, and maybe we'll play a Roy Lopez or something, knight to f3, knight to queen bishop 3. Now I expected a Roy Lopez right here, and thought I'd see like a bishop to knight 5. But White plays a little more passive, a little too passive in my opinion, and he plays this move, this pawn move. He's bringing himself on the defensive right away. This is just way too passive to play. This little pawn move. It keeps my knight from going in there, but I think it's a little too passive. So I just continue with my development. Pawn to queen 3 solidifies my center, opens up the light squared bishop. All right, he plays another one of these pawn moves. Again, I played somebody like this last week where they're just too focused on playing these little defensive pawn moves early in the game. All right, so I get my bishop out there just because I don't want his bishop, pinning my knight in there. There's his bishop to c4. It looks pretty good, I played knight to king bishop 3. And he plays this move, which really, I knew it wasn't a killer move, but it does put a lot of pressure on this pawn right here by my king. I can see that, bishop captures king check would be a pretty good move, or knight captures pawn, bishop captures pawn check, or knight captures pawn. Those are pretty good moves, especially knight captures pawn. So I can't let that happen. It's kind of awkward, but I'm going to have to put my bishop there to defend it. So bishop captures bishop, pawn captures bishop, knight captures pawn. I saw all that coming. I knew he kind of won a pawn out of the deal, but I also know that his development is really lagging behind. He hasn't done much. And now I got my queen threatening his knight. He's going to have to move it away. All right, he bounces down here and takes my bishop, but that's okay with me. I'll take it with my rook. And now, now my, by taking this, now my rook is going to be on this open file, right? I'm pretty happy with that. I plan on castling this way, and things looking pretty good. As you can see, he is completely undeveloped. I mean, he's nowhere near developed. So, I'm not too upset about this position. Really, I think it looks okay. All right, so on with the game. He plays pawn to queen 3. That looks kind of normal. I bounced my knight in there. I mean, that's just such a juicy square for the knight, right? Heck yeah, I'm going to play that. I'm going to put it right there on on queen 5, or what is that? D4, whatever you want to call it. I put it right there. It doesn't have any immediate threats, but it's just a strong post for the knight at the moment. All right, he comes out here with his bishop, but there's not a whole lot of threats there. I don't really care. The knight's not pinned. If he takes it, I'll take him back. So I want to take advantage of things, and I castle long. That does kind of pin my knight, but I'm not too worried about that at the moment. I wanted to get castled. He kicks my knight away, but I'm not too worried about that either. I just bounce it back here, and now I'm threatening to take his bishop with my knight. So that worked out to my favor. He takes my knight. Not really a big deal. I take it with the rook. I didn't really want to mess up my pawn structure too much, and I like the idea of taking it with that rook, and then, I can start to... Woo, what happened there? Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that got bright, didn't it? That got a little bright. It's too bright. That is too bright. Let's try that. Okay, sorry. You have to bear with me. So by taking it with my rook, my plan is also I can slide my other rook here, and then I've got doubled up rooks bearing down on this file here. This is looking pretty good. I got a knight that can bounce into here. I got two strong pawns in the center. I got my queen out. I mean, things are looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this position. He still hasn't developed this piece. His queen hasn't moved. He's not looking too good, in my opinion. He is not looking good. All right, so it's my turn, or no, his turn. So he plays queen to king 2. I'm not sure what the game plan is there. It really didn't seem like a good move to me, especially since I just did this and threatened this queen. All right, so I bounced my knight in there to f4, and now I got the initiative. He's got to move his queen. So the place he chooses to move is right there, which I really don't think is a good move. But I want to take a second and get my king out of the way, It's always a good idea when you castle queenside to kind of actually tuck your king in there, even though it's not too bad because he doesn't have a light squared bishop to pin my queen against the king. But nonetheless, I want to take a minute and take care of that. It's his turn. He tries to get his knight out into the game. But now this is going to cause him some problems because I'm really starting to look at this. This square is starting to get really weak, right? If I could put my knight over here and put him in check, then that's a forcing move. And at the same time, when I move my knight, now look at the rook is threatening this queen. But at the moment, that won't work. Knight captures pawn doesn't really work because he can just take it with his queen, and I just lose a knight for not much. So, queen to g4, queen to b5. Now, the queen guards that pawn that I was so interested in, right? Now the queen also guards this pawn, and the threat of knight captures pawn check is really strong. And that's what I like about it. And it works out perfectly. He castles queenside there, which you might think would get him out of trouble, but it really doesn't, because knight captures pawn check. I mean, it's still a check. And he's got to move his king or take my knight. If he moves his king, then I'm going to play rook captures queen and win his queen. So he chooses to just take my knight, and I take back, and that's it. He resigns right there because, you know, the game's obviously a little better for black. Let's see what the computer says. You know, -7, -8. You know, I mean, it's just not going to be good for white. The game, you know, might have continued. You know, f3 and you know, queen to e2. You know, it's just not going to be good. g4. It's just not going to work out good. Rook on, or let's say d5. You know, black's going to end up winning this game. So you know, white just went ahead and resigned. Okay, h to e1, queen to h2. You know, I mean, you can see it's just not going to be too pretty. Rook to f8. I'm just kind of going by what the computer shows at the top here. Knight to c5. Rook to e8. You know, there's a whole lot of different ways, but I mean, you can see it's just with the queen on the board and a queen and a rook versus a rook and a knight. This game's much better. So I was really happy with that game. I like the way it turned out. I'll play through it real quick one last time. All right, normal, normal, a little too passive, normal, passive, you know, normal, normal, normal. Yeah, threatening, a little too early. See, you know, the problem is he's starting to make all these threats, but he hasn't finished developing his pieces. You know, he's running down the board trying to win the game with 2 pieces. It's not going to work. I give up a pawn here, but it doesn't worry me because I'm continuing to develop. You know, he takes my bishop, but that doesn't worry me. I'll take him back, and now I got my rook on an open file, right? Normal. There's my knight posting up. It looks normal. I get castled. He drives my knight away, no problem. I threaten his bishop. He takes my knight, no problem. Moves my rook right up into the game. Puts his queen there. Bam, threaten the queen. Terrible place to put his queen. I don't know why he did that. And now I'm looking at that weakness there on the d3 pawn. It's just so weak. I tuck my king out of the way just for good measure. He makes a move, and then I put my queen there on b5, and I'm just eyeing up that weak pawn. He castles, and then it's over, right? Check, and what's he going to do? You know, what's the computer say the best move is? Queen captures d3. I mean, it's you know, probably the best move that he can make. He doesn't have too many other options. You know, queen captures d3, queen captures queen, and he resigns because it's just not looking good. So another good game I played. I was really happy with the results of.